My boyfriend cheated with my best friend. How do I move forward? Last Friday evening felt like a page from one of those simple, soft focus commercial montages. Bubbling pasta water, music in the background, kitchen windows open to a lilac scented breeze. I'd just come back from the gym and was trying a new recipe I found online that was supposed to be foolproof. Spoiler, it was not. The sauce was too thick, the noodles too soft, the smoke alarm chirped when a drip of olive oil hit the bottom of the oven and sizzled. I cracked a window wider and stood on my tiptoes to fan the alarm with an old magazine. It felt like a normal life, messy, but good. It felt like the kind of night where you'd look back and think, yes, that's when we were happy, when we were building something. I poured myself a small glass of white wine to calm down and thought about which candles to light, because I love the routine of ambiance. I texted my best friend Lila a picture of the sauce with a caption, "If you don't hear from me again, it's because I drowned in tomatoes." She didn't respond right away, no big deal. We all fall off the grid. And my boyfriend Ben was running late from work, which was also normal these days. He's a project manager for a tech company, and lately, every day seemed to stretch and blur into nights and weekends. I've gotten used to eating dinner later, to going to bed with the TV on low to keep myself company. He always looked tired. He'd slide in the door with that "you wouldn't believe my day" grin, kiss the top of my head and say, "This is what we're working for. It won't always be like this." I remember I thought it was sweet that he said "we." It made me feel included, like all the late nights were some joint effort, a mutual investment in our future. I set out plates and forks and those little cloth napkins we use when we want to pretend we have our lives together. I put on some jazz. For a second, nothing felt wrong. I felt like the adult I'd always wanted to be, someone who can casually toss together a weeknight dinner and make a home with someone. That might be why what happened next hit like a tidal wave knocking over a sandcastle. It wasn't a sudden earthquake. It was the erosion I didn't notice until the dune crumbled under my feet. The red flags weren't neon lights. They were small things, the kind you almost have to squint to see. Leela and I used to talk every day. Memes, outfit advice, shared calendar events for a yoga class we never actually went to. Over the last 2 months, there was more silence. She'd say she was swamped. She'd cancel plans. "Work is killing me," she'd laugh, throwing up a half-apology emoji. And Ben, for his part, was killed by work too. Two people in my life drowning in deadlines at the same time. It was believable. It was also odd. There were other things. A smell that lingered once on Ben's jacket, my lemon hand soap, the one I keep in my bathroom but not the kitchen. He brushed it off as a coworker's lotion. A text I saw pop up on his screen at 11:53 p.m. A heart emoji from a number not saved. He said it was a group chat from his team, someone being silly. The bathroom trash once had a crumpled receipt from a bar we never go to. A place downtown that's too loud and filled with tall tables you have to balance at like a flamingo. "Client thing," he said. He always had an answer that sounded like a practical explanation, sensible enough that I'd feel silly pushing further. And always there was Lila. She knew our schedules. She knew when he worked late, when I was at my book club, when I had that long dentist appointment that made half my face go numb. She had been in our home so often that my place probably felt like hers too. That's why when I noticed that my favorite mug was on a higher shelf than I ever put it, I assumed I'd done it absentmindedly. That's why when I found a strand of hair under the throw pillow, a hair that looked suspiciously like her glossy dark brown and not my light brown, I sucked in a breath and then let it go. We shed. Humans shed. That was my rational mind. And then my heart, my gut, whispered that something was off. But you don't explode a life over a hair on a couch. Not when you've built your Sunday mornings on the promise of coffee and scrambled eggs and conversation about everything and nothing. Not when your best friend has keys to your apartment because she watered your plants while you were out of town. Not when your boyfriend held you all night when your aunt died and you cried so hard you shook. You don't let yourself be the suspicious one. You don't want to be that person. The night it all broke open started like 1,000 nights, with me stirring a pot and setting a table, telling myself I was being dramatic. I lit the candles and checked my phone again. Still no response from Lila. A small knot settled in my stomach. I texted again, a little joke she'd appreciate. "R.I.P. burning sauce. Send flowers." 3 dots appeared and disappeared. I put my phone face down because I hated the feeling of waiting for someone else to decide if my life moved forward. When Ben came home, he looked both hurried and strangely buoyant, like someone who jumped across a puddle and didn't get their shoes wet. He set down his bag, kissed me quickly, a press, not a lingering thing, and then he went straight to the sink to wash his hands, scrubbing like he'd been handling something precious or fragile. I watched him. That's what the last month had turned me into, a quiet observer, cataloging details like a detective in my own life. He dried his hands carefully and said, "Smells amazing. It's edible," I said, barely. He smiled. He looked at the plates, at the candles, at the stupid cloth napkins. He made small talk about a supplier who'd messed up logistics and how he'd had to redo an entire timeline, and I heard the words and nodded in the right places. My head was splitting itself into two, one part hosting dinner, the other part building a case I didn't want to prosecute. We sat down, he ate, I tried to eat. My phone buzzed and lit up next to my plate. I glanced at it, more out of habit than hope. It wasn't Lila. It was a bank alert about a large purchase debited earlier that day. My eyebrows rose. "Did you buy something expensive?" I asked, casual, like we were talking about buying fancy eggs instead of regular. "We don't hide finances, we haven't merged them fully yet, but we share a lot." Sloan Plaza Wine Bar was the merchant. "Oh yeah," he said, with a spoonful of sauce. "Client meeting there at lunch. Had to pick up the tab. I'll get reimbursed." It was smooth. It was plausible. And then his phone buzzed from his back pocket, and in that half second, I watched a flicker cross his face. Not guilt, not panic, just calculation. He excused himself to the bathroom, and I sat alone with the candles flickering. I could have chosen to let the moment pass. I could have refused to be the version of myself who snoops. That's the version of me I always swore I'd be because I wanted to be the kind of partner who trusts. But I also swore to myself I'd be the kind of woman who doesn't ignore her own intuition. And my body felt like it was warning me, my heart beating too high in my throat, my ears warm. His bag was right by his chair, half open. Once, that bag was like a symbol of all the adult things we were doing. Mortgage pre-approval papers, his laptop, a tape measure from when we measured for a bookshelf we never bought. I reached in. I told myself I was just going to look for the receipt I'd seen the other night, to reassure myself it was a work thing and then I could put it all to bed. Instead, my fingers closed around something small and smooth. Lip gloss. Not mine. A shade I would never wear, the tube said crushed berry. It looked expensive. I froze. I felt, stupidly, as if the lip gloss could bite me if I held it too long. I put it gently on the table next to my plate, next to the stupid cloth napkin, next to the candle that flickered like it wanted to blow itself out and end the scene. My brain did something terrible then. It looked for explanations that hurt less. Maybe he picked it up from the office by accident. Maybe this fell out of someone's purse and he meant to return it. Maybe this was Lila's. The thought flashed, and I rejected it so hard I felt dizzy. Because what did that mean? That Lila had been in his car? That she'd been close enough to drop something into his bag? My wine suddenly tasted metallic. He came out of the bathroom, face careful. He's good at that. He's the type who can negotiate a contract and keep his voice even while his whole project burns. When he saw the lip gloss on the table, the carefulness cracked for a split second. And I saw something raw, something cornered. Then he performed surprise. "What's this?" I asked, and my voice sounded like I was hosting a game show where the prize is your future. "I have no idea," he said. Lightly. Too lightly. He picked it up between two fingers like it might be contaminated. Probably from the office. "Is it?" I asked. I looked at him. I let the silence stretch the way therapists do when they want you to fill it. The jazz hummed. The sauce thickened. The candle dripped. He didn't fill it. He put the gloss down. He sat, he took a breath. I saw him make a decision, to lie bigger or tell the truth. I saw both roads flicker in his eyes. He picked the second. "I'm sorry," he said, and the way he said it made my stomach drop, because it was the sorry of someone who knows what they've done and is ready to confess because they're too tired to keep juggling knives. "Who?" I said. I didn't mean to ask who, the word just came out. You think you'll ask why. You think you'll ask how, when, how long, but your brain, at least mine, wanted the leading lady's name so I could cast the villain in this story. He closed his eyes for a second. "It happened," he said. "More than once." "Who?" I said again, and my voice broke on it like I crashed into a wall. Lila, he said. The name dropped between us. It didn't sound like her. It sounded like a sound effect, a thing directors add to movies to tell you a plate just shattered. I laughed. It was an awful sound. It made my own skin prickle. No, I said, because reality was a thing I could apparently refuse. No, that's not even funny. He said my name. He said it softly. I'm so sorry. Something in my chest went very still, like all the thoughts were birds flying at a window and knocking themselves out. I stood, because I couldn't keep sitting at that table that now felt like a stage for a play I never agreed to. He reached out, like he thought this was the moment he should try to touch me, and I flinched back so hard my chair scraped the floor and made a sound that felt like a scream. How long? I asked. When? He told me. A month and a half. It started after she came over to help him move the couch when I was at a dentist appointment I'd told both of them about. The detail hit me like a wave of nausea. I could see it. The couch stuck at a weird angle, the two of them laughing, that accidental closeness that you can either back away from or lean into. They leaned. He said it like that mattered, like it being a moment that got out of hand instead of a plan changed the weight of it. He didn't say it like he was in love with her. He said it like he'd done something stupid and doubled down on it the way people do when they keep driving because they missed a turn. It didn't mean anything, he said, and I felt rage crawl up my throat. How can something mean nothing and burn down your whole life? What is the scale where that adds up? Did you think about me? I asked, like, even once. Did you think about me at all while you were… I couldn't say it. I didn't want details. The implication was enough. The implication was always enough. He said it was a mistake. The word so small compared to the earthquake in my body. I don't know why. Because you wanted to, I said, and then I had to sit down because my knees were jelly. I stared at the lip gloss again, like it could give me answers. Crushed berry. I wondered if she wore it here. I wondered if she smiled at herself in my bathroom mirror and adjusted her hair with my lemon soap scent in the air. Please say something, he said. So I did. I told him to leave. I told him I couldn't look at him. I told him if he cared about me at all, he would go stay with a friend or book a hotel. He hesitated, which felt like another slap. We need to talk, he said, which I know is true, but I could not share air with him and not shatter. I stood up and opened the door, and that's when he actually moved, like the physical act of me holding the door was the only cue he could respond to. He left. The door clicked behind him. I locked it twice. I stood with my forehead pressed to the cool wood and cried so quietly I didn't even recognize the sound. It was a strange crying, no big sobs, just water leaking out of my body like it was a faucet set to a slow drip. I didn't notice the sauce had burned until the smoke alarm chirped again and I yelped like something alive had snapped at me. I spent that first night in a blur of motion. I opened windows. I scraped blackened noodles from the bottom of the pot and let them clog the strainer. I blew out the candles. I carried the lip gloss to the bathroom and set it next to my lemon hand soap. Then I jerked my hand away like I'd burned it and flushed it down the toilet. That's ridiculous. I know. It probably messed up our plumbing, but it felt like the only thing I could control, to remove that object from my home like it was an infected tooth. I texted Lila. I wrote, "Did you sleep with him?" My hands shook so badly I had to retype the sentence 3 times. The dots appeared. They hovered. They vanished. The dots appeared again. "I'm so sorry," she wrote back. "It wasn't supposed to happen." I threw my phone across the bed. It bounced and landed face down like it was ashamed. I stared at the ceiling, at the hairline crack above the dresser we always joked we should fix but never did. Suddenly, all the little things we put off for later felt like evidence that we really did believe we had endless time. I wanted to rewind a month, 2 months, a million years, to a version of me that walked around like the universe was a safe place that kept its promises. I went to the kitchen and ran the tap until the water was so cold it hurt, then drank directly from the faucet like a child. I opened the fridge, stared at the leftover sauce, shut the door. The apartment was too quiet. I turned on the TV to a nature documentary about whales because I needed a voice that wouldn't ask me questions or try to solve anything. I curled on the couch like I was trying to take up less space in my own life. At 2 a.m., I texted my older sister. I wrote, "Are you awake?" She called me within seconds. I told her everything in a tone that didn't match the content, like I was reading instructions on how to assemble a bookshelf. Pieces labeled A and B. Insert tab into slot. Her breathing changed. She didn't yell. She didn't tell me it would be okay, and I love her for that. She said, "Where is he?" I said, "Not here." She asked, "Do you want me to come over?" I said no, not because I didn't want her, but because the idea of anyone else in the space felt like another invasion. I slept for maybe an hour at dawn when the sky turned pale and indifferent. When I woke up, I remembered everything, and it felt like discovering a bruise I'd forgotten about and pressing it on purpose to see if it still hurt. It did. I took a shower and stood under the water until the hot ran out. I thought about the red flags again, the ones I let fold themselves into laundry and tuck into drawers I didn't open. I thought about how I told myself that trust was noble. I thought about how, when you love people, you leave your doors unlocked because you believe in their goodness. I thought about how they walked through my unlocked door and set a fire in the kitchen. I went to work like a robot. I emailed my boss and said I needed a personal day, then opened my laptop anyway and answered a few emails, because doing something normal was easier than sitting with the horror movie in my head. I made a list of practical things like I was planning a move. Find therapist, change locks, tell landlord, pack Ben's things. It was easier to pretend I had a series of tasks than a chasm inside me. He texted me around noon. "Can we talk tonight?" he wrote. "I want to explain. I'm sorry. I'll do anything." I stared at the words. I felt split in two again. One part of me wanted to drive to his friend's apartment and scream in the hallway until my throat bled. Another wanted to curl into my sister's arms and let someone else make decisions for me. Another wanted to go back to making spaghetti and lighting candles and pretending everything was fine. I didn't respond. I placed my phone face down on the table like I'd set down a live grenade and walked away. I stood in the doorway of the bedroom where Lila had slept after a girls' night when we finished a bottle of wine and ended up watching old rom-coms. She'd worn my t-shirt and we giggled about nothing until we fell asleep. That memory felt like a glass shard lodged under my skin. I wanted to dig it out. I wanted to protect it because it was also true. The past felt like a scrapbook of moments that now had captions I didn't write. I called my therapist, who I'd stopped seeing 6 months ago when I thought I had graduated from needing help. Her receptionist offered me a cancellation slot at 4. I took it. The hours until then stretched and then snapped. I ate a piece of toast I didn't taste. I held a mug of tea like it was a talisman. I tried to picture a future where this was a story I told in past tense. I couldn't yet. In therapy, I said, "I don't even know if I'm crying about him or her." My therapist nodded. "It's both," she said. "It's the loss of the relationship and the loss of the friend. You have two griefs at once. Don't try to triage them." That word, triage, made me think of emergency rooms, of people in street clothes trying to decide who gets saved first. It felt like what I was doing with my heart. I told her the details. I told her about the lip gloss, the lemon soap, the way Ben said it didn't mean anything, and how that phrase made me want to break plates just to hear something else shatter besides me. She said, "Of course it meant something, or it wouldn't have happened." She said, "You didn't cause this." She said, "You're allowed to do nothing today besides exist." After therapy, I walked aimlessly. I stood in front of a florist's window and watched them arrange a bouquet and thought about my bank text, the wine bar, the lunches, the days of my life where I had no idea my own movie had a subplot. I bought myself a small bunch of tulips because the act of giving softness back to my own hands felt like a tiny rebellion against the hardness of the week. When I came home, the apartment smelled like last night, tomatoes and something charred. I opened windows again. I threw away the leftover sauce, even though part of me wanted to save it out of stubbornness, like I could salvage something. I picked up framed photos and turned them face down because seeing my smiling face next to theirs made something in me spasm. I collected Ben's toothbrush, his favorite hoodie that always ends up on the back of the chair, the book he's halfway through on the nightstand. I made a neat pile in the corner because I'm still me even when my world is slant. I texted him, "Come get your things tomorrow between 6 and 7. I won't be here. Leave the key." Then I texted Lila. "We're done," I wrote. "Do not contact me." She replied, "Please," and I turned my phone off because I knew what please could do to me. It could spin me into explanations that would only poison me further. My kindness is a garden I have to fence now. I told my parents that was another kind of heartbreak, watching my mom gasp and then press her hand to her mouth, like she could push the sound back in. She asked me if I needed her to come over. I said no again, even though everything in me wanted to be small and held. I said no because I think I was trying to prove something, to myself maybe, that I could endure, that I could be the adult in the montage, the one who cleans up and carries on. But carrying on isn't a noble march. It's 1,000 tiny, stupid moments of moving your body across rooms. It's eating cereal at 9 p.m. because chewing something simple is the only thing you can manage. It's switching the sheets because you can't stand the thought of sleeping where they might have kissed, and then getting under the new sheets and still thinking about it anyway. It's crying in the shower, and also at a random billboard about dental insurance because your brain is a prankster and pulls grief triggers when you least expect it. I keep revisiting memories like a crime scene analyst. The time we all went to the lake and I fell off the paddleboard and laughed so hard. The time Lila borrowed my green dress and forgot to give it back for a month. The time Ben and I went to that silly pumpkin patch and he kissed my knuckles in line when my hands were cold. Were those real? Were they layered over with something else I just didn't see? Is everything retroactively false now? My therapist says no. She says the past can be both true and incomplete. She says they betrayed me in specific actions, not in the way that makes the entire tapestry of my life vanish. But that concept is hard to hold when your fingers feel slick with loss. Today, I woke up and the world was still the same outside. Trash trucks, dog walkers, the neighbor's kid practicing the trumpet badly. Inside, I feel like I'm made of wet paper. I'm writing this because I don't know how to move forward, and I thought maybe strangers who have been through this could send me a map, or at least a compass. I'm writing because saying it out loud to people who aren't in my immediate circle feels safer somehow, like I can put it somewhere that isn't just inside my ribcage. Practical questions. Do I tell their employers? They work in the same building, not the same company, but close. I'm not interested in torpedoes. I just don't know if there's a world in which I see them regularly in the neighborhood. Do I need to tell specific friends now, or wait? How do you even split a friend group when the lines are messy? Do I block both of them everywhere or leave a line of communication open for logistics? What does logistics even mean when we weren't married yet? I thought we would be. There's a dress I saved on my phone, in a folder called Someday. Do I delete it? Do you keep Someday dresses for another life? I keep getting stuck on the fact that he called it a mistake and not a choice. I want an apology that sounds like he understands the difference. And from her, I want, what? A time machine. An explanation that isn't a script. An apology I can hear without wanting to cover my ears. An apology that closes a door cleanly. She was supposed to be safe. She was supposed to be the person I texted at midnight to ask if it's weird to buy a new duvet just because. She was supposed to stand next to me while I picked flowers for a wedding that now feels like a joke with no punchline. If I'm honest, painfully honest, there's a part of me that wants to find some logic that puts me at the center of this so I can fix it. If I was better, if I was more fun, if I'd worn more lip gloss, if I had installed GPS for every location and never gone to the dentist. That way there would be a formula. Do X, undo Y, and then the world stops hurting. But I know that's not true. I know that isn't how people behave when they respect the person they're with. I know cheating is not a math problem. It's choosing to step over someone's trust like a puddle and telling yourself you didn't get wet. I also keep thinking about how many times I've read posts like this and thought, leave. Don't waste another minute on someone who shows you who they are. It's always easy from the outside. From the inside, it's a maze where every corner looks like the exit and then dumps you deeper into the same hallway. I don't know what moving forward looks like yet. Maybe it's changing my locks and blocking them both. Maybe it's putting the photos in a box I duct tape like a bomb squad technician and sliding it into the back of my closet until I can open it without shaking. Maybe it's deleting the Notes app page where I kept a list of baby names I love. Maybe it's finding a new gym because the one I go to has too many ghosts in it now. Maybe it's returning the green dress to my closet and pretending it was never borrowed. Or maybe it's smaller. Maybe moving forward today is just making my bed and drinking water and not checking their social media. Maybe it's letting my sister come over with soup and watch a show where nothing significant happens. Two people sitting close because the world hurts, and being near someone who loves you makes the ache a little less sharp. I am not okay. That's the truest sentence I can write. But I am here. I put one foot in front of the other. I wrote this instead of calling either of them. I watered my plants. I made a list for the grocery store and crossed off lemon hand soap because I cannot bear the smell right now. I'll buy the lavender one and see if that helps. I opened all the windows and let the city sounds in. I am trying to air out the apartment and myself to let something sweet and new drift through the rooms where my old story played. My question to you, anyone who's been here, is when does the morning stop feeling like a cliff? When do you stop reenacting the betrayal in your head like a scene you can't delete? What are the steps that actually help, not just the ones that look good in a montage? Do I box up his things myself or wait until he does? Do I warn certain friends before the story spreads? Do I tell my favorite coffee shop barista who always asked about your guy? Or do I smile and say good and then cry in the bathroom? How do I move forward when forward feels like a broken escalator I have to climb, step by heavy step, while everyone around me is gliding by on moving stairs? When does the staircase become level ground again? Ben is coming tomorrow, between 6 and 7 to take his things. I won't be here. I'll leave his boxes by the door. I'll come back after and sit in the quiet and try to decide if the silence feels like a wound or a balm. I suppose I'll know when I feel it. I suppose there will be a new normal eventually, a way that the story sits in me without burning. For now, I have my sister and my therapist, and these tulips, and the tiny act of choosing lavender soap. I have the knowledge that I deserve people who don't pawn off their choices as accidents. I have the fact that I was honest and loyal, that I kept my promises. And secretly, stubbornly, I have a flicker of a future I can't see yet, but that I know exists because time is rude and persistent, and because I've watched other people who were shattered build mosaics out of their pieces. I'm trying to believe I can be one of them. I'm trying to move. I'm trying to forgive myself for not seeing earlier and for seeing now, and for the part of me that still wants to hear some version of, but we can fix this, even as I pack a hoodie into a box and tape the top shut. The pasta pot is still on the stove. I'll clean it tonight. Maybe that will be my victory for the day, an empty, shining pot instead of a burned mess. A space where something nourishing can be made again later, when I'm ready. Not today, but maybe soon. TLDR, my boyfriend cheated with my best friend for about 6 weeks. I found out via a lip gloss in his bag and a reluctant confession. I'm gutted and trying to figure out next steps. What to do, who to tell, and how to move forward when everything feels broken.